Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Mind Muscle Connection. I'm Joe Plimzessi with Tyler Weeb. And my friend Tyler thought of a great topic that I think is so obvious that I probably would have never thought about it. But it's a discussion about the longevity of not just an athletic life or a sustainable change in health and body composition status, but we, of course, are competitive bodybuilders, a retired pro, and we've both done powerlifting type things. And uh, I almost want to take this as a slight insult because I have a feeling that Tyler thought about this because, hey, Joe, you've been doing this for 40 freaking years. Like, that's a long time. Not many people are still doing this.
You said that, not me.
So that made me think of something. I've got a short little story that I think would be a really cool setup for this, Tyler. I'm going to take you back to me as a second grader. So imagine little Joe at 6, 7 years old. And it's one of those times where I had such a sense of weird self-awareness. And it was because our second grade teachers, first of all, are probably more conditioned to help kids understand social skills and societal things and organization. You're not learning. Yeah. You're not learning, metaphysics or something.
Yeah.
So she prepared this little lesson or was reading a book, and it was about the 5 phases or the 5 cycles of life. And this has stuck with me since the second grade. She said, we all are kids and we grow up and we're kind of under our parents' tutelage and all that. And then we go off and we look at what we want to do for a living. And maybe that includes education. And then you raise a family or, whatever that is in that adult life. And then you also have your career and your professional life. And then, here you are as a gray haired grandparent and she's got these pictorial visualizations, and it was these 5 phases of life. For some reason at that age, I was just captivated. And so now, look at me studying social psychology and social science and all that. And, that stuff still geeks me out. And just yesterday, now that I'm in that grandfather 5th cycle of life.
You skipped the gray hair. You just went straight to no hair.
Right. I bought my grandson, my 16-month-old grandson, this new book, Dr. Seuss's book of people, places, and things. And he loves to read. He loves for me to read to him. And so we're flipping through this, and he keeps coming to this picture of the school bus, and he'll point to it and he'll say bus. And then he immediately looks outside and says outside. And I say, yeah, school bus is outside that picks up the kids. And we'll flip through another couple pages, and he goes back to it, school bus. And then he points outside. And I mean, almost like autistically, like he comes back to that like every 5 seconds, every day. And so in his mind, he's making some kind of connection because he's seen the bus. He's probably seen little kids get on the bus, and he's wondering what this is. It's huge. It makes noise. They're all the same color. And I just thought that kind of cyclical nature, that thing that something captivates us, like Truett and the school bus, like me and this social science being taught to me as a second grader. And yet there is that cycle. It means different things at different points. So for me, one of the things I want to talk about, and I'm going to let you bring in your initial thoughts and why this was an interesting topic to you, is that longevity has to include the acceptance that there are cycles. I was excited about training when I was 11 years old, and I was just fired up to gain muscle and hit a baseball farther, throw a baseball farther. And then it was, probably kind of, the adolescent peacocking type thing, how I look. Then it was competitive bodybuilding. And now here I am, training in my own facility 40 years later, and it's still for just the love of movement and the physiology and the longevity. But at all of those different positions of my life, it has meant something different, yet it was still very meaningful. And I think that's something that has to be key and has to be thought about.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way of putting it, because I think I was thinking something along those lines as I was thinking about this podcast and what we were going to kind of talk about today. And that as we go through this, you just said it perfectly. I have to say it again. It's going to mean different things at different points, but no matter what it means, it's always going to be meaningful to you. And for myself personally, like I started lifting weights when I was 15 in high school. I mean, it was an easy A. I wasn't the the smartest person or the in high school. So I was like, hey, like easy A, lift some weights. It's awesome. And at that point, I was a very, skinny, insecure kid that just wanted to, build some muscle and get the attention from, from the girls. Like that was the only reason that I started lifting at that, 15. I wanted to feel good about myself. I wanted to, yeah, right. Like I wanted to like the way I looked, right? I mean, they say breakups, make bodybuilders, but I think insecurity make bodybuilders, right? Like I think at a certain point, that is why we all start lifting. Some more so than others, some less than others, but I think that's always going to play a point. And just something as a coach, what I've really started to notice a lot more and start to think a lot more is that no matter the age of the client that I seem to receive, that is such a big portion of their desire to work with me is they don't like the way they look. And the only reason that they seem to be trying to do this over and over again is to bring out that insecurity, get rid of that insecurity and look a different way. And so that got me thinking, just along my own journey, and maybe without even like a pinpoint, I think I can pinpoint it, is the first time that I got very, very lean and competed on a bodybuilding stage. I think that was the first time I was like, oh, it doesn't really matter what I look like. This is not what it's about. I had to kind of go through that, look the best I've ever looked in my life to realize that it didn't drive me anymore. And it's how do we get, our clients to start thinking that way when that is such a big part of the reason that they're contacting us. And I'm not saying that this is a bad goal to have. I think it's a very valid goal to have, but I think we have to realize that if this is your only purpose of why you are doing it, you are going to run out of steam fairly quickly, and it's not going to last. It's not going to give you that internal motivation or, just for the love of lifting and physiology and challenging yourself. Because, I think I've said this in previous podcasts, and we always have this, idealized version of ourselves and how we want to look. Oh, once, I'm 185 pounds and I've lost all of this body fat, I'm going to look like this and I'm finally going to be happy. And from what I found, personally, is you kind of get to that point, you're like, oh, I can do even better. You almost don't even like the way you look once you have finally gotten to that place, because then you've realized how much more you can still improve. And so really trying to, get my clients to think you're in this for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Let's start focusing on the things that are going to allow us to do that for life. Like, this is literally the fountain of youth, people. Like, we have found it to the best of our ability, building more muscle, taking care of yourself. We know that this leads to longevity in life and an overall better outlook on life. And typically, they tend to be happier, whatever that means. And so it's trying to meld these two things together of, yes, I understand that you want to look a certain way and you want to be there now, right? I get that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we also have to now think in this 30-year term of, okay, what are the things that we can do now that are going to still allow us to get to that goal, but have this longevity? Because ultimately, in my view, we're here for our overall health for life. Like, that's, I think, we need to make that the main focus.
So here's why I completely disagree with you.
Awesome. Let's do it.
I wanted to say, I've been waiting to say that just because I want to see the look on your face. So we were talking off camera about how this industry can sometimes just exhaust people, because I genuinely, at 52 years old, I love my clients. I sometimes work harder than they do toward their goals, because I know exactly what you're saying is true. I know what this can mean to your life. You don't even know what you don't know yet. And I've done this so many times for so many years with clients. I want to shake them sometimes and pour my excitement into them, including everything you just said. And yet, again, speaking of my own phases and cycles of life, I know that having those thoughts and feelings and trying to make my motives, intentions, their motives and intentions is the exhausting part. That's what can frustrate me and them. So, what I tend to do now, Tyler, and I'm only half kidding when I say I disagree with you, is that as more of that omnipotent narrator, knowing the trajectory that they will probably follow or can follow, I'm more excited about where they are now in their own phase. And so, yes, I agree that what finally brings people to the table first is a certain aesthetic, how I look. You can be, in decline for a long time, and you can go on medications, and doctors can be barking at you and everybody's warning you. And it's finally that one time you look in the mirror and like, golly, this is awful. So, but that can itself be a motivation to help you get to that next phase. When you were standing on a bodybuilding stage and you had accomplished that, up to that point, that was life to you. You loved it. That external goal you were using as a pursuit catalyst. And then that allowed you to reach another level up in self-awareness. Oh, wait, there's more to this. Wow, there are some extra benefits to this. I don't think you can get to that step without what you previously put into it. So at my season now, I think what's even captivated me more than ever, what's really brought me back to a more passionate, fun level in my career, almost very cyclically, is that I understand that now about my clients, and I can meet them in those places. And I'm like you, and I'm like my second grade teacher, where I'm planting little seeds. I'm giving them information that will help them with sustainability. I just know that they're probably going to hopefully tuck those away for later. That's not going to be as meaningful to them right now as what they're really excited about.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you almost have to realize and understand at what point are they in their journey along this industry, and be able to deposit those little nuggets as we go along at the appropriate time. So I think that is something very important, because again, we kind of come back to, the more that you do this, the more that you go along, the different understandings you have, the better understanding you have of this and what it fully means. And so I guess as a coach, it's almost our job, quote unquote, to go through that first. So then therefore we can bring people along that journey and go, yeah, I recognize when I was in this position. Oh yeah, this is what I felt when I went through X, whatever it might be. And yeah, I think from just even talking a lot with my clients, I'm really, I start to see that a lot more. Like they'll tell me something and I'm like, oh man, I totally remember when I felt that way. And this is how I got through it, or this is how I look at it now. And yeah, it's very much trying to combine, like you said, getting them to that aesthetic point, because that is a motivator, and it's not a bad motivator. It's that within that context of how much is it motivating us? Does it get us to that point where now, like myself, and I'm sure you had this at some point too, is we can take that next step and go, oh, okay, like, yeah, it's awesome to look good. It's a lot of fun, but there's something more to this. And that is, certainly somewhere, where I'm at in my life. I've done only 2 bodybuilding shows, and I've already kind of, completely lost that motivation in a sense that drives me to train. May I compete one more day? Yeah, maybe, but it's not something that, I am defining my journey around and defining my identity around anymore, of the competitor, or I got to look like this, I got to look like that, because this is just one part of my life. It does not dominate my life. And I think that's something that I really try and get across to my clients, because we are in this industry where it's like more is better, grind, like you got to do this, you got to do that. And it's, no, you know what? Like, you can train only 3 times a week. And actually working with you kind of opened my eyes to this even a little bit more of, that was the first time in my life I was training 3 times a week. I've never done that before. And that was honestly some of the best training I've ever had because it did not dominate my life. I was taking time outside of the gym to spend time with my family, relax, recover. Basically, yeah, going to the gym, 4, 5, 6 times a week, which I think like most of your, let's say, general population go. Maybe they don't have a lot of that coaching, or they're just going with that, subsurface Google information. They're going to think that they have to devote their whole life around this just to lose that 5, that 10 pounds, where I think the perspective from us, we can go, no, like you can step back. You don't have to make this your whole life to get those results that you're wanting.
And even just as you're describing, cycling or dialing down some time commitment. So you said something that I think is perfect in that, we as coaches, sometimes it's our experience. It's us pioneering our ways through this, and being a phase or two ahead of our clients often helps. And I'll give you a quick little, history of me. So 11, 12 years old, I start looking around and think, wow, I want to live a different life than what I was seeing in my own family and so forth, and in my own personal habits. So I start training, and this is exciting, and it's a form of self-efficacy. And then I'm using it for baseball and sport. And then I get into my college and military years, and I'm no longer doing that. But now I'm kind of interested in the bodybuilding culture, become a pro bodybuilder and do all that. And each time I still was able to pull back when I needed to. When I was at the IU med school, I didn't compete for 2 years, but I still trained. I still went to the gym. When my kids were getting into little league and so forth, I only competed every couple of years because that was the minimum requirement to maintain my pro status. And then when my kids got to a certain point where I thought, man, I am really going to suffer as a parent and them as children if I myopically focus on this and my business. So that's when I retired, but I still engaged. And then in my own personal fitness, very aggressively. Like I train just as hard now as I ever have, but it's been for these evolving reasons. And there was even a time where I would say, you may be processing some of the feelings I was, or I started to just detest this. After I kind of ran through that cycle, I just looked back and I thought, was that all just vanity and shallow? And I see these other clients who are competitors kind of living those same lives, trying to, quote, fix themselves by earning a bodybuilding title or looking a certain way. And so many people do end up in tragic, psychological constraints because of those factors. And so I was really kind of angry and stepped away from coaching competitors for a while. And then that's when this new wave of educational pursuit with people like Eric Helms and Mike Zordos and Trexler and Knuckles and Israel, and like all of these people all of a sudden started making bodybuilding, Dr. Bill Campbell, fun and academic. And that kind of pulled me back in for a new phase. But I think it's all valuable as long as we do what you said, and that is not tie our entire identity to it. What will destroy longevity more than anything is if you stay in a cycle too long that's just no longer fun or helpful, but you feel like you have to do it. You don't owe anybody anything. Nobody gives a flying fuck whether you ever compete again or not. Trust me, they don't. They would much rather you be happy and enjoy things, enjoy life. If it's frustrating to you and you're not happy, trust me, you're making other people unhappy. So the way you have longevity is to love what you're doing. And if you don't, change something about it so you do.
Yeah. And I say that so much to my clients. I'm like, at the end of the day, this is meant to be fun. Like you are doing, you are challenging your body. You are pushing it. You are, trying different things. You are getting stronger. You are doing what our ancestors did without, dying at 25 or, getting chased by woolly mammoths, right? Like yeah, maybe I have my time periods wrong, but I'm not a evolutionary biologist, so it's supposed to be fun, right? Like we're supposed to enjoy challenging ourselves physically, challenging ourselves mentally. Like if you're not having fun, then why are we doing it? Like I've always been this proponent of like, what's the point of having a great physique if you don't fucking use it, right? And that's where I really enjoy challenging myself outside of the gym. Like, yeah, I'm strong as hell in the gym, but what does that equate to outside of the gym? If it doesn't do anything, then it's like, well, why am I lifting these weights? That's where I'm at in my journey at this point. And yeah, it's just, let's not make this a burden. Like let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the process, because we're gonna get there. So let's have fun.
And I'll wrap us up by even softening or extending one of your statements there. At your age, in your season of training and physique sport and just functional athletic pursuit, you're still in a prime where you can make statements like, we're quote supposed to use our physique. You're not supposed to do anything. You have the privilege of living the life you want to live, and you have the privilege of being able to set that aside if you like. If you decide, I no longer want to train this way, but I want to just play recreational tennis, or I just want to do this or that, or just again dial things down. As a health scientist, I would hope people want to stay physically healthy, but even that is a personal choice that I honor and give people complete autonomy. But you and I are bonded together, and I think most of our listening audience, because we love that physical movement, we love being healthy, we love challenging ourselves. And again, just to soften that statement, let's giving people the space to love it in different ways with different intensities at different times is something that we give to other people, and we should also give that to ourselves.
Yes, you said that much better than I did. So I don't know if I should say anything else, because that is exactly what I was trying to say. Like, you don't have to be the power lifter. You don't have to do this. It's whatever gets you up in the morning, whatever that might be. Is, if at that physically active, you're going to go play a little bit of tennis, whatever, man, if that brings you joy, by all means, like, let's do it. Right. Like, let's create a life that we can do that and have so much more fun with it.
The 5 phases of life, man. Second grade lesson right here. You got to love it. You got to live it. All right, Tyler, thanks. And everybody watching, listening, the Mind Muscle Connection, thank you. We'll see you next time.